Hello, everyone. Welcome to Academy of Astrology Monthly Podcast here with Mandi and Marcus Parchet. Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hello.
Well, I have to say, I have to explain this month or maybe for next month too, we have to pre-record it because for someone who's traveling quite a lot, I'm really sorry. I really want to do live because I really enjoy that feeling. But my time zone would be 8 p.m. UK time would be something like my 2 a.m. So I have to record it, but I hope you still enjoy it. So, well, today we are going to focus on the coming up new moon and the full moon, and look pretty interesting because we can already feel that intensive energy. I don't know how about you too, but for me, I probably just take it because I haven't been at home with my family for a while. So I was just like, but I don't know, how do you feel, Mandy and Marcus?
Wow. Yeah, I'm having a serious Pluto transit at the moment, so it's kind of quite classic. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it's kind of I've kind of just come out of a couple of years of pretty hardcore Pluto transit. Although I'll be getting a little taste of it when it dips back into Capricorn again later. But so for me at the moment, pretty chill. But with this week, I think I'm just about to start seeing clients again. So it's just like the pressure of more work coming in and stuff, but nothing for me personally right now, classically Mars. Because as Mandy, as you were alluding to, these things really depend on whether in your chart, what's happening is plugging into something in your chart. So I think I'm experiencing, as we all will, some of the generic sort of approaching. I guess I wouldn't say it's approaching Mars Pluto. I mean, it's approaching, but we haven't got that yet. But the Pluto in Aquarius hasn't yet yielded any personally massively significant things in my life, but I know it will. But in about 10 years' time, when it squares my ascendant. so
yeah. Well, for me, it's conjunct. Pluto is conjunct my moon and my Mars. My moon and Mars are in conjunction. So that's pretty intense, right? In a lot of ways. I'm not going to talk about things that are happening
personal
that
details.
are very symbolic. It's both. First of all, it's personal. I'm getting very plutonic here, aren't I? First of all, it's very personal details, and secondly, as well, these things manifest very differently for different people, depending on you background, your history, your whole chart, and all that kind of thing, where these planets land in your chart. Mine is angular, for example, so that adds to the intensity. And I don't want to put people up in either fear or in kind of false Pollyanna about these transits.
100%. Okay.
Sorry, Marcus. Well, before we jump into today's main focus, new moon and the full moon chart, I want to remind everyone, if you haven't, every month we have two talk. One would be like a more beginner suitable, and the subject will be really fit into everyday's life. Like, for example, 2 weeks ago, we have Sharon and I talking about the final partners in your chart, and that was so popular and so interesting, and we really enjoyed that technique with the also included in the a lot of errors and a lot of marriage, and that was so interesting. And this month, on the 10th of the February, we have Anna Andrade going to talk about her research on earthquake, and that is so interesting because such important subject. And then also we have Barbie Costello on the 24th of February. She's going to talk about the relationship in your chart and from the modern psychological astrology point of view. Okay, so if you haven't registered, please send email to me and we will reply you. We will help you through it. Okay, so how about we dive into the new moon chart, and I am going to share the new moon because on the 9th of February, we are going to have a new moon which is located at 20 degrees of Aquarius. Here we are. And it's like this full moon, well, I mean, I usually will look at the aspect, but with this new moon, I mean, basically, new moon is about new beginning and how we starting things. And related to the Aquarius thing, maybe it's like that invite us to look into the future or much bigger picture. But in another way, I look at Pluto just step into Aquarius. I just feel a little bit, yeah, why are you here? The elephant in the room. So, Mandi, how are you going to how would you interpret this new moon?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it fixes us firmly into Aquarius season. Obviously, it's at 20 degrees, so we've had 20 days. The sun is at 20 degrees, so we've had about 20 days already of Aquarius, the sun in Aquarius. So when it's a new moon, obviously the sun and the moon are conjunct. So it's the moon is obviously how we feel and express our emotions. And Aquarius is known to be more intellectual, more in its head, more using kind of the head brain rather than the sort of heart brain or the gut brain. You know, that's more kind of that intellectual. It's about data. It's about almost having sometimes you can, and we've got Mercury here has gone into Aquarius as well. By the time of the new moon, Mercury has kind of coming out of its conjunction with Pluto, because anything that goes into Aquarius at the moment instantly gets a conjunction with Pluto. Mars will be coming into in a few in a couple of weeks or so as well. But there's that kind of detachment, you know, that feeling that in Aquarius there's that capability to talk about anything, even emotional things, without emotion, that detachment. However, the rub is that you can't really separate the emotions from, you know, the thoughts and ideas and emotions are intricately linked. Our thoughts come from our emotions and vice versa, even if you're not quite aware of that. So that's something to think about during this new moon. Think about where your thoughts and your ideas come from. If you can take some of that Aquarian objectivity to think about where, you know, why am I having this thought? Why am I trying to analyze the living daylights out of something, such as making a decision? Because again, we've got that Mercury in Aquarius, so making decisions. Why am I weighing up the data? But how do I really feel about things? And we have a square from Uranus here to this new moon as well. So that kind of always shapes things up. It's a fixed square. So with a fixed square, Uranus always shapes things up, but with a fixed square, there's often resistance to change. So where are your thoughts about things that need to change or things that are changing that are out of your control? Where is the resistance, and where does that feeling of resistance come from? You know, maybe it's rooted in something from the past. Maybe it's, you know, anything really. It's quite, you know, with Pluto, I know Pluto in Aquarius isn't conjunct this new moon, but it is conjunct Mercury, separating and nearly conjunct Mars. So everything is going to feel extra intense at the moment. And I think a lot of people are feeling that. So that's kind of my initial take on that. I will let Marcus share his wisdom with us as well.
Thanks, Mandi. No, that was great. I'm going to controversially slightly ignore Pluto for this one because it's not plugging into. It's highly significant, of course, that it's changed sign, but it's not plugging into that new moon. Whereas, as you said, Mandi, that Uranus is very strongly. So this is going to be another of those months of surprise kind of things, you know, like stuff happening. It's like, well, so just in terms of taking it, I don't think this is a super negative new moon at all, actually, because we've got Jupiter doesn't look like it's in conversation with that new moon, but actually in traditional astrology it is, because Jupiter's casting its shadow, what in traditional astrology would be called its anticyon, to around 21 degrees of Leo, which means that actually that new moon is opposed to Jupiter invisibly in traditional astrology. That's this whole idea of Anticia, which I won't get into now because it's bloody complicated. But our friend Tanya Daniels has done a great article on that on astro.com. So I would suggest if look up on astro.com, Astro Diane's the website, look up Tanya Daniels' article on Anticia. It's well worth a read. It's fantastic. Anyway, long.com. What I'm saying is this new moon is actually secretly and invisibly plugging into that Jupiter as well as the Uranus. In fact, it's kind of creating an invisible T-square between Uranus and Jupiter. So that could have two effects. The first will be that it will amplify that invisible surprise, whatever it is. And with Uranus, you don't know what you're going to get, you know, a free gift or a slap in the face. You just don't know in advance. And this, because it's always just a surprise generator. With Jupiter, it'll tend to skew it to the positive, but it'll also amplify any disruptive effect that will cause. The second thing that's happening, I think, with this month is we've got Venus and Mars applying to conjunction. Yeah. So they're actually moving towards each other. So that's kind of usually auspicious for relationships and for new beginnings in personal relationships, and on a world level, maybe sort of new innovations in fashion and new trends and stuff. But the interesting thing is they're not going to actually conjunct. And I said I wasn't going to mention Pluto, but I obviously lied, because they're not going to actually conjoin until they change sign and then conjoin. They hit Pluto one after the other and then conjoin. And I just had a look. My final thing, and I'll tie it all together hopefully with this, is I looked at the my Mansions of the Moon book, which I've mentioned before. It's Christopher Warnock's book, and the lunar mansion for this new moon is related to sort of, it's quite an agriculturally auspicious moon. It's good for either destroying or guarding crops, like looking after what you're growing. But it was a mansion that's inauspicious for friendship and marriage and conception, but is very good for stability and protection. So it's kind of a weird one. Like the image is of a man dressed in robes planting a small tree, and the foliage of the tree contrasts to a spindly barren tree in the background. Blah blah blah. So the point with this one is, I think this is sort of saying there's potentially new relationships and new things coming in, but there might be some disruption this month to the established pattern. There might be some sort of so as I say, that the mansion is good for growing new things and protecting your crops, but it may be potentially a bit destabilizing for existing relationships. So that is not to say, anyone listening to this, that relationships are going to end or blah blah. Don't jump to the worst case scenario. Like I say, this new moon is plugged into Jupiter. It's not a super negative new moon, but it may mean that this month will bring a bit of disruption to existing relationships, and perhaps a bit of spice of something new potentially coming out of that. I don't know, just some thoughts.
Well, thank you, Marcus. I really enjoy this, and I like that Anticia because, believe it or not, because a couple of days ago, last week, I was just teaching about my student to calculate the Anticia, and that was so interesting because always you have to explain where it's come from, and that was so interesting because it's attached to the astronomy. Anyway, I don't want to go back there, but yes, Tanya's article is worth to read. But now I want to, because we all talking about that Pluto, and I really want to address it because it just moved into Aquarius, and then I think early this month, when the sun moved into Aquarius conjunct with that Pluto, and then we have the what do we say, in China, the huge estate agents called Evergrande just have their liquidation. So I mean, that was begin maybe 2-3 years ago, and it was like really last with that Pluto in Aquarius. They are just like slowly developed until now. So, and also you mentioned about the Venus Mars and going to conjunct with that Pluto. I suddenly have two things in my mind. The first is like it's like a interesting drama. The Mars and the Venus both have to face the Pluto's challenge, and eventually they will get together, conjunction in Aquarius. That's one story. Another story is, I always say, in 2022, Russia started his action, or I prefer to say attack Ukraine, was indeed that time, when Venus and the Mars conjunct and they're very close to Pluto. So who knows what will, history may not repeat, but we may have a similar experience going to share or something. What do you think, Mandi? What do you think about this? Mars is about to close to Pluto and the Venus come to join them.
I'm really sorry. Something's come up. I've got to go. So I'll leave you guys to pick.
Okay.
No worries.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That'll be Mandy's Pluto transit to her Mars and Moon.
Okay.
There'll be something going on.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I think I can jump in with that one, Rod, because I was thinking what might be happening there is we've got Mars, and I like the order you put it in, where you said Mars and Venus are going to one by one, they're going to conjoin Pluto, and then after they've conjoined Pluto, they're going to sort of like hook up. So it's kind of like, to me, that suggests some sort of some initial challenge, followed by some sort of resolution, hopefully. I can't speak to what will happen with the Ukraine and Russia, obviously, but I do think it was when you said that, I look back at the lunar mansion, and one of the things here, because these lunar mansions were used in medieval times for like astrological magic and stuff like that. So they had certain uses, like people would make talismans to try and bring things into effect. And the talisman for this mansion was, in this mansion, make images to besiege cities and villages, to take revenge on enemies, and then to destroy harvests and blah, 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 blah. So the besieging of cities and villages is interesting. But then it's also used for the opposite, which is mansions for guarding trees and crops from evil. So it's kind of like, I think there may be, as you suggested, as you implied, there'll be a crisis of some sort, followed by, I hope, a bit more resolution. But it's definitely going to be a sort of destabilization, followed by something, I think, hopefully something positive.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Marcus, what would you suggest because forgive my ignorance about the medieval astrology magic, but it sounds very interesting. So what would the medieval astrologer do for this lunar mansion? What would they suggest?
Well, they would use this lunar mansion particularly, and the reason we're emphasizing the lunar mansion is because at this exact point, the moon is right on top of the sun. So it's kind of like, because obviously they're conjunct, so I look at the lunar mansion because it gives a flavor for the month. But what they'd normally do is they'd sort of see, what is this mansion good for, and this mansion was good for protecting crops and protecting. It was also good for some of that negative stuff, the besieging cities. So like a medieval astrologer might have said, oh, this couple of days, say they were doing work for, I don't know, their feudal overlord, their king or whatever, and the king was planning to launch a military campaign, or was engaged in a military campaign. They say, this is a really good time for besieging your enemy. Do you know what I mean? But on a more positive note, it was also a good time for protecting crops. So, so it's an interesting duality with this particular mansion. So they'd use it in that way. Yeah.
Okay. For my, personal hope, I really hope they didn't hear about that BCG part, because I don't want anyone get hurt.
Well, but it's what you said, Rod, about it, this being a part of a cycle, right? A larger cycle.
True.
And if the war began with that Venus, Mars, Pluto thing, then there's some hope that maybe this will be hopefully a sort of the beginning of the end of it,
Yes. So, I agree. That was my concern. So should we jump into the full moon? Yeah, that would be, a very, very different flavor. Okay. Here we are, the full moon on the 24th of February. And then we have the sun moon. Remember the new moon, we have the sun moon square Uranus. And then this one is the sun opposite moon and conjunct Saturn. Hello.
Very different.
That is like very different, because we know at least this Saturn and Uranus, they have totally different flavor. especially one of them is like Uranus would be like a really like a say I want something different, but Saturn usually prefer to keep things.
Yeah, same old.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
And yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, okay. I can go. It was yeah. It's interesting because the Sun, Saturn, Moon. Yeah, it's kind of. I think it's usually they're usually can be a bit depressing because it's just like it's a bit like but with the full moon, everything's out on the table, whatever it is by this point, 24th of February, and it's kind of. I look at that as, okay, that moon in Virgo, you've got to clean up I'm going to swear slightly, you've got to clean up the crap at this point.
Okay.
Everything's out on the table. Whatever mess there is to deal with is now evident, and there's some sort of bill to pay. And at this point, it becomes obvious what that bill is and what needs to be paid. And that doesn't need to be super dramatic. That's just going to be like, okay, here's when it becomes obvious what work needs to be done and what needs to be resolved. So say if there's any emotional issues, and I'm saying that because Pisces is a water sign and Saturn is in Pisces at the moment, or if there are any sort of I don't know, sort of breakdowns in structure or issues in relationships or whatever, then this is the point at which they become obvious. It's like, right, what practically can we do about this to sort these out? And as has happened often with these new moons before, the Jupiter is sextiling the sun and trining the moon from Taurus, and so that will be enormously helpful. I think what Jupiter in Taurus is doing is offering practical help in this sense, because it's Taurus, it's a physical sign, it's a practical sign. So it's like, okay, we need to organize this and tidy it up and make sure the table is laid and we have good food, and so we can solve whatever issues have become evident. So it's like I say, bill comes up, whatever bill is due, whatever issues need to be sorted, it's obvious at this point in time. So it's like, let's begin implementing practical routines and things we can do to actually sort the situation out. The second little thing, and then I'll shut up and let you get a word in edgewise, would be the Venus Mars here are conjunct, and interestingly, or just actually they've just separated from the conjunction. They've just had their conjunction, haven't they? But what's interesting here is that they are interestingly via the Antitia again, opposing Uranus. So is that so what's fascinating there is I didn't clock this before, that Venus Mars conjunction after they've had to walk over the coals of Pluto, as it were. They've joined together, but their joining is in a hidden opposition with Uranus. So this is kind of like a sort of exciting but unstable union, or something that might be novel, but so it's an unstable situation. So with regard to perhaps if we're extrapolating to the world stage and taking a guess at sort of the Ukraine situation, if there's a new beginning or some new phase of this cycle starting, it's like there'll be some crisis that then results in a new phase, but this new phase will be somewhat surprising and somewhat unstable. That instability is not immediately obvious. It's kind of so on a personal level, it's easier to spot. This could be like on the extreme. This could be like people having a hidden affair, like a little bit of naughty on the side. But it could also be new, as I say, new developments in social trends or fashions and stuff like that. And these trends may not be the most lasting, but they might be a bit surprising and innovative. So yeah,
100% agree with you. And I don't know, because to be honest, I like your work on T-shirt too, because I still remember you use quite a lot in the horary and in the medical astrology. When I teach my student in the financial astrology, I also remind them that this is something is hidden, and something is like a hidden agenda, and it's not on the table. So we should be careful with that. But I don't know, am I right or wrong? I have an image about when you mentioned this, the Venus Mars conjunction is again in the opposite the the anti-shell, the point with the Uranus, then suddenly I get an idea is like, is there the underlayer excitement there, or something like an underlayer, we want something different, we expecting something different, and we want. So I would say for people who can feel that anticipation or like kind of a agitation or something, maybe we can ask ourselves, is there something we want to change? Or is there something we want to cut off? Maybe, I don't know. I just have a feeling like that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it could be quite positive in a way, because again, they're plugging into Jupiter. And what's interesting is, to me, that Venus-Mars conjunction is actually plugging into the new moon at the beginning of new moon via the Antitia in a hidden way. So this is kind of like that new moon energy of like shaking things up is hidden in a hidden way, sort of charging up this Venus-Mars conjunction, because it's like that sort of Antitia connection. So yeah, and I do think the Antitia are hugely important in Western tropical astrology, because they're based on the tropical zodiac, which is they're based on the solstices and everything. So again, if anyone's like, what the heck is he talking about, go and check out Tanya Daniel's article on astro.com, please.
It is very interesting, because I think it worth to discuss. And it is like, as you say, if you can understand Antitia, then you totally understand the tropical zodiac's idea. I have another thing draw my attention, another set of aspects draw my attention in this chart, which is the Jupiter-Saturn sextile from the new moon to the full moon. They're always there. But why this chart draw my attention is because the sun is about to trigger this set of Jupiter-Saturn sextile. How do you, Marcus, how would you interpret this set of a sextile? And then when they trigger by the sun and the Mercury, what can we expect?
Okay, that's an interesting one. So, I mean, it's a generally fortunate aspect, isn't it? It's quite constructive. The way I think that works out is that Saturn is normally the principle of subtraction. It's normally a reductive, editing sort of tradition. In terms of its values, it's very conservative. It keeps things the way they are, and maybe even compacts and shrinks them. And Jupiter's the opposite. Jupiter's addition. So when you've got them in a friendly and expansion, and it's looking to grow things and bring in the new and whatever. So when you've got a friendly relationship between the two, the way I think that is, obviously the sun is with Saturn, so it's charging up Saturn most. The emphasis this month is on the Saturn end, is on the sort of like, okay, here's the bill rather than here's the check, but with Jupiter there being in a friendly aspect, it will make whatever's happening more constructive. It will just it'll be like, okay, so here's the bill, but from receiving these bills, but probably because it's in Pisces, it's a double-bodied sign, so it's more than one bill or more than one issue that comes up. But from receiving them, a positive outcome, it's like the Jupiter will bring a silver lining. Oh, hang on, my microphone keeps flipping in and out. So so for some potential growth from that. So some constructive outcomes, some silver lining. So you maybe get on a practical level, this might be like financially, literally a bill that you're like, oh, damn, I've got to pay that now. But then, okay, that might help you organize your finances better in future, which is not always the case. Sometimes the bill is just like, geez, I wasn't expecting this. And it's but with this one, there'll be a constructive outcome, or maybe you get a rebate a bit down the line or something like that. Or it's kind of, I just think it's whatever is coming up at this time might be a bit of a pain in the bum to deal with, but the results of dealing with it will make life a bit better than it was before. So that's the way I see that. Yeah.
Thank you, Marcus. I really like it, because I mean, you always have like a well mixed from traditional and modern view. I mean, you are a traditional astrologer. You are a great herbalist, and then horary astrologer. But you also get a very well training about modern astrology, and that was so interesting to hear you to blend these things together. And I really expected this Jupiter Saturn in the sextile can bring some positive outcome, and then quite interesting. I don't know why today we couldn't avoid Anticia, and also always related to that Uranus. So something may surprise us for coming months, and I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you, Marcus, and also thanks Mandi, although she has to leave a little bit earlier. But I'm really enjoying this conversation with my friend. I'm not even miss you guys so much. Well, next month, similar time, and we will have a recording again because I'm still in Asia by that time. I'm about to go back, but just before my flight take off, so I have to record it. So, well, don't forget this month we have another on the 10th of February talking about the earthquake, and the 24th of February we have the Dari Costello talking about the relationship in your chart, and the information will be in the comment area. And if you really want to enjoy and you join us, and you have you need some help or something, send us an email and we will help you. On the next week, next Friday, it would be also another pre-record session, but as I'm in Asia, so I will invite some astrologers from Asia Pacific area, and focus on the mundane astrology around this area, because that would be very close to Chinese New Year. So
yeah,
I shouldn't say. Let me correct it. Lunar New Year, because it's not only Chinese, because also Korean and Japanese, and Vietnam and Thailand, they also share this lunar New Year's culture too. So my used to call it Chinese New Year is make me feel like I'm not very political correctness. But yeah, I sincerely feel sorry if I say something like that and upset anyone. So it will be the Lunar New Year in the East Asia area. So I really want to invite some of the astrologers in this area and talk about their view of the regional politics and economic. So so if you can join us, please come forward and on the YouTube. And also I have a great news, because our channel is growing up, and we are about to receive more viewer hour. That means we are going to have more people to watching us. I'm so excited, and it's a hard work, to be honest. And Marcus and Mandi was beginning with this channel. We kind of cultivated this channel together. So it's kind of excitement. And please join us. And if you like our video, please like, subscribe, and share this video. And I will see you next week and next month. Thank you, Marcus. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rod. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.